Have you ever wondered how a war happening thousands of kilometers away in the Middle East can suddenly start affecting your wallet? I mean, petrol prices go up, even vegetables get expensive. Why does that happen? Well, today, let's decode this exact connection.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. The shock waves from a conflict happening miles and miles away can literally be felt right here, in our pockets. You see, today's world is so interconnected that if a fire starts anywhere, the smoke is bound to reach all of us.
So this brings us to the big question. A war in a distant land, is it really heavy on your pocket? And if so, how and why? In this explainer, we're going to break down this how and why in a super simple way.
Okay, so let's get right into it. The whole story really starts at one specific location, a place that is incredibly, and I mean incredibly, critical for the global oil supply.
This place is called the Strait of Hormuz. Just imagine it like a very narrow sea lane, a thin waterway, through which a huge amount of the world's crude oil passes every single day.
So, just how much oil are we talking about? About 1/5. That's right, more than 20% of the entire world's oil supply passes through this one single route. Now, you can probably imagine why any disturbance here, well, it can shake up the entire global oil supply chain.
All right, so here's the crucial part. How does that disturbance travel all the way to our wallets? Let's understand this whole ripple effect one step at a time.
So look, the moment there's tension in the international market, the price of crude oil starts to climb. Now, let's just say, for example, that the price of crude oil goes up by $10 per barrel.
Well, the impact of that on our country is huge. How huge? We're talking a whopping $14 to $16 billion.
That's the extra money, the extra burden that India has to spend just to buy oil. And right from here, a whole chain reaction kicks off.
So here's how this chain reaction works. First, crude oil gets expensive. This makes India's import bill go up. Now, to buy that expensive oil, we need more dollars, right? That puts pressure on the rupee, and its value goes down. And when imports are expensive and the rupee is weak, the direct result is, you guessed it, inflation. Everything starts getting more expensive.
And where do we see this inflation? Well, the most obvious place is at the petrol and diesel pumps. Then, because airline fuel costs more, flight tickets get pricier. Things like paints, chemicals, and plastics, they're all made from petrochemicals, so their prices rise too. Higher transport costs mean cement and logistics get more expensive, and of course, that extra transport cost affects the prices of our vegetables and other food items. So, basically, almost everything.
So, does all of this mean we should start to panic? Well, not so fast. Let's take a moment and look at the other side of the story. Is the situation really as bad as it sounds?
On one hand, there's the fear, right? The fear that the oil supply will be cut off, prices will shoot through the roof, and the economy will just crash. But the reality is a little different. If you look at history, the Strait of Hormuz has never actually been permanently closed. Plus, there's immense pressure from the entire world to keep it open. On top of that, India has enough foreign reserves to handle shocks like this, and right now, inflation is still within a manageable range. So yes, the situation is serious, but it's not catastrophic.
So then, what's the main takeaway from this whole discussion? What's the one thing you should remember?
Okay, so here's the bottom line. First, the risks are very real, and you will definitely see the effect on prices. But the whole end of the world narrative is probably a bit exaggerated. You know why? Because all the major economies have a vested interest in resolving this peacefully. So yes, the price spike is real, but the world's collective interest in solving this problem is just as real. So I'll leave you with one final question. In a situation like this, what's better? To be panicked or to be informed? You see, when we understand the why and the how behind things, we can make much better decisions. Think about it.